low-life punk.
Thank you guys for helping me.
No big thing. Oh, I gotta go hook up with the guys. Oh, yeah, man, all right. I'll be checking with you. You know, you gotta be more careful. These people...
So here it is, the season finale of Season 2 of Tour of Duty, Episode 16, The Volunteer. And this one ends on a cliffhanger. So this concludes the story where we have this kind of corruption within the base. We've got Angela Bassett's character returns for her second episode as Camille Rowe, a kind of auditor, ultimately, a lieutenant in the army, who kind of uncovers this kind of corruption. But she's started a kind of an illicit affair with Taylor that will ultimately kind of end in tragedy to a certain degree when they're kind of this kind of affair is found out and she's then transferred. And that's kind of the last we'll see of her character. We've also got a kind of, essentially a guy who works in like rear echelon, so he's like a clerk. But he desperately wants to kind of get some in-the-field action, and he convinces Anderton to kind of give him a shot. Private suite, so he's kind of like a new recruit. And I think the idea with this character is that we're kind of seeing it again from a new person's perspective. You know, very much like Season 1, we had that first episode, and we have like Purcell and Ruiz join the kind of the company, and they're all kind of enthusiastic, and now they're kind of jaded veterans. Sweet is now in that position where he's very much enthusiastic and kind of wants to kind of get in there, but obviously once he's in kind of in the action, ultimately he sees kind of what kind of he's really like and ultimately how scary that can be. So I think his character is just there to remind us as the audience about what it's kind of like and get it from a perspective from someone who has, you know, juxtaposed between like a veteran who's, you know, we got like Ruiz and Purcell saying like we were the same, but now we still have that fear, but we ultimately live with it, compared to someone who likes the idea of it but hasn't had that experience, and the reality versus kind of the expectation. I think it's quite a good character. I think the actor does a good job of making a very, you know, he doesn't have a huge amount of screen time, but he's very enthusiastic. And has this kind of infectious kind of personality, and you know, it's a shame he was only ever in the one episode. You know, but he kind of fits straight away with the kind of the rest of the kind of the guys, as I quite liked. He would have made a good reoccurring sort of cast member. Now in Season 2 they do actually have a little bit more of a kind of a swinging door in regards to more kind of like characters that will stick around a little bit longer, but the first two seasons didn't do that as much. And then obviously the big kind of action with this one is that Goldman and Zeke reckon there's this kind of large build-up of MVA, which of course the upper brass dismissed because their intelligence disagrees with that. But we know that Goldman and Zeke will be correct in their assumptions, and it ends with ultimately a mission which leaves the fate of Goldman and Anderson somewhat up in the air, when they kind of have to kind of are left behind in a chopper and calling an airstrike danger close. And the last thing we see is a large explosion that could well have enveloped Anderson and Goldman. So what do we think of this episode? I gotta say I could have quite liked this episide, and I really like the character of Sweet. I think it kind of was like a reminder of to sort of tell the audience, like, you know, even though these are normal characters or regular characters, they've kind of experienced now, still bear in mind that this is still a dangerous kind of situation. So I thought that it served as a kind of a good reminder, and as I've mentioned, I thought his character was fit very well with the kind of the group. They have the whole corruption angle. You know, I felt it really is kind of the last few episodes have kind of dabbled in that. It could have been expanded on a little more, I feel. I mean, like the Angela Bassett character was only in the 2 episodes, so her investigation seems a little short, if that makes sense. But I thought that she had a good connection with Miguel Nunez's character Taylor. So it's a shame, obviously, that it kind of. But obviously, this is the whole thing with officers versus getting involved with the enlisted, which is obviously against kind of army protocol and stuff, which they pay the kind of the price for. So again, it's an angle that we kind of see here. But obviously the big kind of firefight at the end is pretty exciting, and there's some kind of the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids kind of style kind of ending with kind of Goldman and Anderson kind of getting cut off into quite an epic kind of battle sequence. And they do use a couple of shots that they've kind of used in kind of previous episodes where we see like the waves of the kind of the NVA kind of coming towards them. They've kind of plucked a few shots that were kind of from previous episodes. So overall, obviously this one leaves us on a kind of a cliffhanger, which was really the only season to actually kind of really do that, which I think is a bit of a risky move, obviously, because you never know whether in network TV, especially, whether your show's going to get picked up. And obviously, Tour of Duty was cancelled after the kind of the third season, so it's just as well they did get that third season to kind of resolve this going forward. It's a solid episode, like I've said, some good character moments, some good action moments, and you've got the star power of this one as well, with obviously the guest star with Angela Bassett. So a pretty strong episode. I think the kind of corruption angle could have been a little bit more drawn out over the kind of maybe a longer period and conceded a little earlier. And despite the fact that this ends very strongly with Goldman and Anderson, they don't actually have a huge amount to do in the actual episode up until that point. I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to you next time.